get started, even though I did have a feeling some people are probably still on the way. And otherwise, I can only congratulate you for making it through the whole day, 5 p.m., and sitting it out for another about 40 minutes with me. So I hope I'll be able to make it interesting for you, keep you awake for the last session of today. There's going to be a prize draw after this session, so there is still a reason to stick around for a little longer. At 5:45 p.m. there should be a prize draw, and then of course this evening there's going to be a party, so that should be good. So for my session for now, I would like to tell you something about digital transformation, and how digital transformation does not just require apps, but it requires a factory for apps, app factory. So maybe just before we get started, a quick introduction. So my name is Mark Mulder. I'm here today with Webcon. You might have seen us in the expo area earlier on today. I have about 15 years of experience in the area of digitization, process automation from different perspectives. Started my career in e-commerce when 15 years ago that was still very much up and coming, and the digital transformation was on one side technical, getting a web shop up and running, selling products, getting it integrated with the ERP, and on the other side very process driven, getting 80 physical stores to accept us as an e-commerce team and getting all the processes running similar, like you know, if you have the experience in the physical store, the online experience is going to be the same. So then I spent about 10 years doing ERP projects, so very large, long, boring projects with a lot of interesting processes, but it's not so flexible. And now for 2 years, I'm with Webcon, a company that does low-code business process automation. And for today's session is going to be about how to use the full potential of low-code to really speed up the digitization of business processes. So maybe for me to get a bit of a feeling for the audience, low-code, to who is that a familiar term? Could you raise hands if... Right, we have a good share of people that have heard about who is actively working with low-code, a low-code platform. Alright, so in that case, I'll just give you a short introduction to low-code. Actually, we will get to that during the presentation, what exactly low-code is, but I'll make sure to fill you in so you actually have an idea of what we're all about here. So, when we look at digitization, what are the challenges we're facing within our organizations? We have a lot of manual processes that are stuck in emails, Excel files, paper documents, and that is not just any organization, right? There's actually, I've been to the most advanced high-tech organizations where you would think everything is already digital and they're completely on top of it, but there's always a lot of business processes that are still being done manually. The core process is probably using enterprise software, but business processes are everywhere in your whole organization. And if you want to really drive digitization, you have to look at all those processes, not just a few core processes. So a lot of those tasks are repetitive. So your people are losing time doing the same thing over and over again, so their automation can't bring real benefits. There's administrative overhead, right? So it's not the core of what you actually want to be doing, but it's all the stuff that will also needs to happen for things to work properly. So it's controlling financial processes, making sure everything gets settled properly into the system. If you can digitize and automate those tasks, again, it's going to bring you huge benefits. Inconsistency is a huge topic, and the bigger your organization is, the more you're going to deal with this. If you have multiple locations, you're doing business in multiple countries, or even on a smaller scale, multiple business units within one company, doing the same processes, if they are not centrally orchestrated, but you think everybody is doing the same process because everybody got the same email and the same instructions, well, you'll find out if you actually speak to all those people and ask them, so tell me, what is it exactly that you're doing? you're going to find out that all of them have a slightly different interpretation of the process they're doing. So if you get those digitized, you can get rid of that inconsistency. You can centrally orchestrate your processes. Unfortunately, there's a lot of possibilities to do digitization. One of them is, well, I'll just buy some software, commercial off the shelf, readily available. I'll pay the price, and then I have a digital solution. Well, this is definitely one possibility. In some cases, maybe perfectly the right answer, but there are some downsides to this solution. So a commercial off-the-shelf solution is never an exact fit for what you need. So let's say you're looking for this. This is the scope of what you need from a piece of software. And if you look long and hard for existing solutions, you might find something that is this. That's pretty good, it's not a bad match, but still there's part of what you actually needed that is not included. And then there's a green part that you're paying for, but not actually using, right? So, besides that, commercial off-the-shelf software gets expensive, especially because you need lots of different bits of software for lots of different processes and for lots of different bits of digitization, so the cost there adds up. You don't get a competitive edge with anything that's off the shelf, because any of your competitors can buy the same bit of software and they will have the same thing you have. You never know what the roadmap is, so is this software developing in the same direction that my business is going, or are we going to go growing apart, crossing lines? And they focus on their own scope. And then coming back to the scope actually, where we were missing a little bit of what we actually needed, that's not provided in standard software, it might be very difficult to add that. So then you still need to sort of find workarounds for the bit of scope that was missing. So, what can we do then? We'll just get some developers on board and we'll build it ourselves. And then it's going to be exactly what we want. Well, that's definitely also a viable solution, and for some cases might be the best solution. But also there's some downsides. So developers are poorly available, very expensive. Development takes a lot of time because, well, you start from scratch and you have a description, you can develop anything you want and it's going to be exactly what you need, but it's going to take quite a bit of time. Because of the two factors above, it's going to be pretty expensive. The whole upkeep and maintenance is on you. So if you buy a commercial off-the-shelf solution, there's a lot of maintenance and security and scalability features built into a software package that you buy. If you decide to develop something from scratch, that's also going to be on you. So there's just a little bit more added to the scope of what you were thinking about initially. So if we look at the amount, the deficit in developers, well, it used to be 1.4 million, and the prediction is that in 2025 we're going to be short of 4 million full-time developers worldwide. So that's an issue. So then, low-code. And as I mentioned, just a quick introduction, low-code is basically Lego for building business applications. So you don't need to be a programmer, you don't need to be able to write Java or whatever. You can just drag and drop and configure, and you can build applications. So, and that goes even so far that low-code companies say, well, you can actually give your business users a license to the low-code tool, and they can just go and build their own applications. And that's an idea called citizen development. We'll also touch on that in a moment. So, well, that sounds pretty good, right? Because low-code, it's going to be tailor-made. It's going to be easy to build, right? Because it's a drag and drop and configuration, no programming. It's going to be very quick to deliver to the business. And on top of that, it is pretty affordable comparing it to the two previous solutions. So let's have a closer look at low-code. If we add to that what the gardeners and foresters of the world are saying about low-code, it's also super positive. By 2025, 70% of applications being delivered are going to be using low-code technology. So, and there's a lot of low-code platforms. Webcon is one of them, and we think it's a pretty damn good one, but there's a lot of them out there. And the low-code has picked up a lot of speed over the last years, and it started becoming a bit of a buzzword. So there's a whole hype around low-code, just like there is right now about AI, just like there was about a lot of different technological terms in the previous years. And when something becomes a buzzword, I always get a bit scared, because you should never buy something just because it's a buzzword and a lot of people are talking about it, right? You need to do your homework and figure out what is what. So we did the same thing for low code. And there's fortunately other companies that do studies and ask companies, what are you doing with low code, how does it work? And this is a very good one conducted in the DACH region, so Germany, Austria, Switzerland. They spoke to 600 different companies using low code and asked them a whole range of questions. So we had a look at the study, and there were some results that were not surprising to us. On being low code, of course, it's great if you hear everybody saying that it's positive and that they love it, right? So 65% of organizations use low code. Fantastic. 67% see a future increase. So it's already in a good place, and it's even going to get better. So that's totally the feeling we see from our customers and our partners like Ziua working with our solution. And then we came to this statistic. And the question they asked here, two companies that use low-code solutions, is how much applications have you actually delivered on your low-code platform over the last 5 years? So, low-code should be, as I said, easy, drag and drop, configure, deliver it quickly, and it's going to be tailor-made to your needs. But the reality is that 80% of those companies using low-code delivered only one application per year. So from our experience with our customers, we were blown away with the statistics. So we wanted to dig a bit deeper and see how is this possible, right? What are our customers doing differently? Well, obviously this 80% is doing it wrong. This is where our customers are, delivering many, many dozens of applications, even in a very short time span. So, to give you some examples of our customers, Pratt & Whitney Canada, a huge global organization, aerospace industry. I think everybody will be familiar with Pratt & Whitney. In the first half year working with Webcon, they managed to deliver over 20 applications, and they had 12 ongoing projects, even within the first half a year. So we're not talking about a 5-year time span, this is just half a year of them getting started. Another company, Echo Investment, within a 4-year time span working with low code, they managed to deliver over 90 process applications. So these are some of the numbers we're seeing. We even have a fantastic example from Ziua, actually here very locally from the Ziua municipality, so the city hall, that has been working with digital improvement, digital transformation. And I think actually some of the people that live in the region here might have contact with Webcon. One of the processes they did is if you as a citizen of the municipality raise an issue, so I don't know, there's a pothole in the street or the street lights are not working, the whole registration process is being done by Webcon in the back end, and they're working on loads and loads of processes. So these 5 applications within 5 years, they've gone way past those numbers already. So how is it possible, and how does Webcon do things differently than other low-code platforms that we see these numbers, right? So it's because we have a different way of thinking about application development. And, well, I'm from the Netherlands, you might have heard from my accent, my name, so I chose something very Dutch to give you this example. It's not about building one great application, because we're talking about business processes, and you don't have one huge business process in your organization. You have lots and lots of processes. Big ones, small ones, simple ones, complicated ones. And if you want to go through a digital transformation within your company, you need to be able to deal with all of those. So you need to keep stakeholders' expectations in mind when you're delivering those applications. And if we go back to the research, what were those expectations from the main stakeholders? So they wanted to lower cost, shorter time to business, and solutions to be closer to the business. Well, in no way, if you develop 5 process applications over 5 years, that you're realizing any of these goals, because it's not quick, it's not going to be cheap if it takes you 5 years to build 5 applications. So in our case, we do keep a very, very close focus on those requirements. So what you need to do is use economies of scale to really keep things moving and to meet those expectations. So you need to think, how do I build a platform to build lots of applications, not just 1 or 2 or 5. So it's a bit like this story, you probably know where I'm going with this one, right? You can have any color as long as it's... So maybe let's not go back to 1923 and repeat the whole history, but that's sort of the way of thinking. You need to think big, you need to think in scale, and not about being a boutique, but being a factory for delivering applications for your business. So, what makes a good application factory? What are the success factors here that set us aside from other low-code platforms where we see that the results are marginal? So there's a few key factors that I would like to point out today. So actually 4 key factors that are really, really important. First one is consistency. And consistency is maybe the odd one out here, because well, in all my 15 years in IT, I don't think I've ever had a user coming to me requesting consistency. Right? They ask for, I need a process, and this needs to happen, and I need an integration and a validation here. They never really ask for consistency. But the result is that if you build me a form with a save button, you might end up with something like this. So what I always say about consistency is it's not something that users might love, but they will definitely hate inconsistency. Right? So this is key to delivering lots and lots of applications and allowing your company to work with them in an easy way. And that is from the end user perspective. If we think about consistency from the IT perspective, there's way more that comes into play. Because for IT, if they have 20 different solutions, they're going to have to deal with training, because all those users need a training. He uses this application, she uses those 4 ones, and it's a huge investment. Time from your users, costs, IT. Well, IT also needs to understand all those different applications. Commercial off-the-shelf software, if you have 10 of them, you have 10 different agreements with 10 different companies, 10 different service desks where you can raise issues, 10 different licenses you're paying, etc. So these are all consequences, and if you have one platform, an application factory that allows you to deliver all those process applications, they're going to be consistent, and you're not going to be losing time on, well, first of all, your end user being frustrated. Second of all these topics, training, administration, maintenance, upkeep, imagine that you have to take over somebody's work while they're on holiday. Well, if you have a completely new application and you don't know what is where, you're not just going to be able to jump in and take over somebody's work, right? You're going to have to be trained. How does this application work? What do I have to deal with? And it's going to be very, very tricky. So with consistency comes reliability and stability, because your users will feel at home in all those applications. The second crucial factor is continuous improvement. So there's this famous saying, comes from the world of carpentry, woodwork, measure twice, cut once. And in woodwork, this makes a lot of sense. To the day of today, right? You can only cut once. If you chop off too much, you're going to have to throw it away. Unfortunately, a lot of companies actually apply this to IT projects as well, and to application development as well, where in the digital world, we can cut as many times as we like. What you get if you uphold to the measure twice, cut once idea is you get paralysis by analysis. Because you're thinking you need to get it perfect the first time, you'll spend so much time analyzing it that you end up not really moving forward. So And it's very difficult to imagine something from scratch. So it's logical that if you ask a user, tell me exactly what you need. Here you have a blank sheet of paper, please write down everything that you need. That is very hard. It's way easier to criticize something that is already there, instead of just drawing a picture from something that is not there. They know the process is happening, and usually from my experience you end up with the happy flow of the process, right? If everything goes well, then it looks like this, and then I need this, but then there's always lots of exceptions. So what if this doesn't go right? What if that comes in too late? So what if that is not handled? So that's the stuff that, well, after go live, they figure out that, oh, wait a minute, yeah, we forgot about it. So after go live, even though we've been analyzing for months and months, we're gonna have to change it because we forgot about something. So how do you avoid this? Well, first of all, you have to accept that things are not going to be perfect from the get-go, and you need a solution that supports this principle, right? So you need a solution that makes it very easy to change things after you go live. So, like I said, criticizing something that's already there, if you start with an MVP and you can shoot at it and say, okay, wait, you know, we started with this, but actually I want to add some things to it. It's way easier for anybody. I think you will experience this yourself as well. If you see something, it's way easier to say what's wrong than to imagine the perfect example that you don't have in front of you. So if you release quickly and you keep refining and improving, you will get a much better solution over time. So create prototypes. Release an MVP and not the perfect solution that you want to have in half a year's time. Do something quicker, get the MVP, improve it, and fill your half year doing it that way. And just keep adapting to the reality, because even if your application is perfect today, a half a year from now, the reality is going to be changed. You're going to want to update it, you're going to want to change your process, so you need to have a platform that allows you to do this. And if you build a prototype, well, you can first of all deliver first. So in some areas this means being ahead of the competition, filling a gap in the market that others are going to be later. You can deliver fast and you can deliver way more. And when you get this whole continuous improvement ongoing, you are just going to be adding and adding value to what you already have up and running. If we look at it in a very simple drawing, right, it makes it maybe a bit more visual. If you spend up 3/4 of your half year planning, analyzing, planning, and then it goes over to IT that can actually build it, and then it goes live after half a year, that's when you first get any business value, any result out of your solution. And that's the first time you see what might still be missing and when you can start fixing things. If you do it the way illustrated in the lower graphic, plan something, get your MVP out, you will have your first result and tangible business value way easier. So it's also going to be easier to convince your manager, your CFO to invest in the solution because you're already saving time and money with the MVP you have, and you'll be able to improve it. And after half a year of doing it this way, you're going to have way better results than if you spend all the time analyzing. So you need a platform that helps you here and makes it easy to change. So that's something we invested a lot of time in actually. And well, fortunately, the results from our customers are showing that. And if that sounds like agile, it's because it is agile, but you don't need to do the morning stand-ups if you don't feel like it. So the third factor is you need to find a platform, a low-code platform, that does the work for you. So again, we are not a boutique, we're thinking like a factory. So get a platform that takes work out of your hands. And if we look at what is actually the work that is taking up my time, so there's development, obviously. And if we're talking about low codes, then I'm saying you can develop quicker because it's a drag and drop. But actually, for your IT department, the actual development, building an application, is only 15% of the total time frame you spend on that application. So, well, if you spend time increasing that 15%, you're not gaining a lot, right? It's just 15%, so there's way, way more to it. So if we have a look at what else there is, just a quick analogy, like I said, I'm from the Netherlands. Webcon is a company from Poland. I like football, so I thought it would be an interesting one. So if we look what is important in football, right? It's about the team that scores the most goals. So you need to get the best strikers because they score goals. Well, in Poland we have this guy called Lewandowski who was pretty good at scoring goals. But still, Poland didn't win the World Cup. So in the Netherlands, we have a pretty good defense, world-class midfield. Not so great on the strikers at the moment, unfortunately. And we also didn't win the World Cup, right? It's about the big picture. You need to have all those areas covered. So if we go back to the world of IT, so let's not go too crazy with the football examples, right? The development is only one pillar. So what you need to think about, it's business analysis, because you need to get input from your business user. What do you need? You need to develop something. You're going to have to implement it, train those users, get it live. That's taking up a lot of your time. And then the most is maintaining it, governing it over years and years, especially if you have dozens or hundreds of applications up and running. So you need a platform that focuses on all those areas and helps you save time in all those areas. So what is that maintenance and governance? So it's stuff like security, deployment, changes, scalability, documentation. Just imagine all the documentation that has to be written when you build an application, get it out to your users, so they need help documentation. How does it work? What does what? Where do I go? So our platform, for example, creates the documentation for each application with the push of a button automatically. So just imagine you define the application, click a button, and you'll have the whole user documentation generated for you. That alone is going to save IT huge amounts of time. And every time you update the process and make changes or improvements, another click of the button and your documentation is up to date. So it's those kind of features that are actually going to save you loads of time. Training easy, user interface, similar for all your application. So that makes a huge difference. And if you forget about this, and that's what some other low-code platforms are doing, unfortunately, what that means is once you get started, it might be manageable and you can maintain 5 applications manually. But at some point, you're going to lose so much time on maintenance that the benefit from quick and easy low-code development goes completely to waste. So this is crucial, and that's why we spend so much time focusing on it, and that's why we see that at the EU, for example, the Ziua municipality is delivering so much applications so rapidly. So, and like I said, if your platform doesn't cover it, you're going to end up being responsible for it, and you're going to drown in maintenance. So the fourth point is IT involvement and who's responsible for what. And this goes into citizen development. So as I said, citizen development is the premise for giving your process owner, your business user, the key to a low-code platform, get them a license, and then they can just build their own applications. So that sounds great, right? I just give the guy from purchasing or HR or the woman from sales, whatever. I just give them a license. Here's your low-code platform. It's drag and drop. You build your own applications for the processes that you're dealing with and get them out of Excel, Outlook, and get them digitized. Unfortunately, the reality is not so simple because, well, a team of citizen developers, process owners, is not capable of running an application factory. Your citizen developer, your process owner, does not care or think about things like consistency, security, maintenance. I mean, they have their own problem to solve, they have their process, and they don't care about all those responsibility features like security, scalability, performance, etc. So you don't want to burden them with this. You want to have your citizens acting as designers. So it's crucial to get them involved. Don't get me wrong on that one. Getting your business involved into application development is crucial because they know what they need. But you don't want to burden them with being an app developer. If they wanted to be application developers, they would probably join IT instead of other departments. So, and there's another problem coming along with this, because if they do actually like building applications, IT is now going to have a problem that they have 5 business users that are building all their own applications, starting up a sort of shadow IT department, not following the rules of the core IT department, and building insecure applications. So there's also a risk there. So you want to give those citizens a place where they can own the what do I actually need? And then you need a clean handover to IT, and IT is going to own the how. So they're going to be responsible for all those features like maintenance and security, integrations, web services, databases, whatnot. So what we've done as Webcon is we've actually created 2 different tools for those groups. We've created a prototyping tool to get the citizen involved, build a rapid prototype, play with it. I've actually done, some of you might have joined my session from this morning. I've actually shown how you build a prototype in 25 minutes, half an hour. So that is the perfect place for your citizen. It's not overcomplicated. And then there's a clean handover to IT that will take over, take care of the maintenance features, and get dozens of applications running productively. And with that, your IT department is going to change to the department of, no, we can't do it, or it's going to take us 4 months, or it's going to be really expensive, to an enabler for the business where they have the right tool to actually help the business and deliver process applications quickly. So, if we summarize, low-code platforms, there is a lot of them, right? Webcon is one of them, and there's loads of them, and even platforms where I would say they're not low-code, call themselves low-code because it's a buzzword and everybody wants it. So be careful that you pick the right platform. And last but not least, the 4 factors to keep in mind when building your application factory and doing digital transformation the proper way. And if you want to have a quick example, you can actually join our session tomorrow at 2 p.m. We're going to be building an application from scratch using Webcon in 50 minutes. So if you want to have an idea of how simple is it really to build an application in low code, you might want to join the session at 2 p.m. tomorrow in the first focus group. And for now, nobody has fallen asleep. It's the last session. Prize raffle is on the way. Party for tonight is on the way. But before we end, I would like to give you the possibility to ask me any questions. How is our solution different from Mendix? That's going to be a long answer. So pricing is very different. So pricing and licensing is a very different solution. Mendix is a more technical platform, slightly less low code. But I think probably to make sure that nobody falls asleep over the answer that I have in my head now, which will take about 5 minutes. I think it would be good if, like I said, we are at the Expo, Webcon. If you could visit the Expo, then I would love to go into all the details, what is different from Mendix or Nintex or Power Platform or any other low-code competitor. Regarding, I'm going to give it a brief answer when it comes to licensing and maybe hosting while we're at it. So licensing can be perpetual, it can be a subscription model. The most important aspect is the amount of named users. So it's pretty simple to know what you're going to be paying. If you know how much users do I have, then you know what is it going to be costing. So we're not based on the amount of process instances or the amount of iterations or the amount of web service calls you make to other platform or other sort of technical things that are pretty difficult to predict. It's really named user base. And regarding hosting, very simple. You can run it on-premise, you can run it in your own cloud if you have something with AWS or Azure already up and running. And if you would like Webcon to provide it in a cloud model, well, AT&U has their own data center, so they have some options that they offer as well. That's also possible. And it is one and the same solution, so it doesn't matter if you want to run it on-prem today and your company changes to a cloud strategy in 3 years from now, that's fine. Then you just pick it up from on-prem, put it in the cloud, and keep on running. Any more questions? That was not a question. Right, so then thank you so much for your time and attention. And like I said, let's see if anybody here wants some prizes in the raffle, and then we will see you tonight at the party.